Let's see.
See if I can get chat pulled up on my phone.
Yeah, should be open now. There we go. Great. Oh yeah, it always, that's why it echoes. Oh, I caught it. No echo. All right. Well, happy New Year's. I've been on vacation the last, I guess, like 10 days or so, which has been really nice. First vacation I've taken in a while. How's your last week or so been, Dan?
It's been good. We're kind of doing like still with the situation going on. We're not doing like the big bash that we usually would do for the holidays, but we're doing like smaller get-togethers but it's been good. Looking forward to 2022. 2021 was another crazy year, and I'm sure there'll be some curveballs thrown at us in 2022.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see. I think we're going to try to focus tonight on the Q&A. We're going to try to focus on the chat. So we're going to put in some focus and effort into like reading questions and getting to as many things as possible. So if people want to start asking questions, drop it there. And we'll get to them.
I don't think we'll be able to see them from inside Zoom, right?
You have to go to can you go to the channel chat?
From inside?
Like go to my YouTube channel and then pull up the chat.
Oh yeah. That's I've got it on my phone.
Okay. Okay. Kai has the first question. We're just jumping right into it. Let's do it. Okay, market question. What do you think about low value metals? First, third place Pikachu 2009 Gym Challenge, as well as the 2005 Pikachu medals and the Arceus medals.
Personally,
yeah,
I like them. I have no idea what the current prices are. I know a few years ago they seemed really, really cheap, and I didn't like hoard them or anything, but I've got handfuls of them, I guess, and just no idea on their current value.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I think for some reason they've never been something that I've looked to actively pick up that much. There was a small period where I picked some up. I think I always just didn't really know how many were out there. I think that was a hesitance. I feel like I didn't have as much information about those as maybe some of the other cards I was always looking at. But I think they're really cool cards. They're a really cool part of a person's collection. I'm not sure, like, without looking at the price, like, what would you pay for those now? Like, what would be, like, as a collector? That'd be an interesting way for us to do this. What would you be looking to get for, let's choose the, like the Feraligatr Typhlosion ones, if you know those.
Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar. It's hard for me to just put a specific number. I guess what I could more readily compare to, like I'm constantly talking about PSA 10 Jungle Eevee first edition, PSA 10, something like this. I would much rather have one of those cards raw mint than a lot of these modern or like WotC vintage super common cards that are going to have just massive pops. I handle them so much. I see them so much. They're just not that interesting to me. Whereas the metals, I'd much rather have those. So I guess $100 range, low $100 range. If they're in that vicinity, I would think that they're undervalued relative to stuff like that.
So it looks like a PSA 10 Feraligatr here just sold for $520. The Meganium only sold for $255.
What's like
There's a Feraligatr 9 for $125 from 2009.
9's my sweet spot. So yeah, I'd much rather have
honestly,
that card.
$125 for that. Yeah, it's a cool card. I think they're really cool. As a collector, that doesn't seem uncomfortable. I think if you really like it, again, I'm not that certainly this is not flipper speculator advice that I'm, would be hoarding this sort of like niche card for some sort of moon rocket. I mean, you never know if these are suddenly Logan Paul has a bunch of these, or you suddenly start to see, some influencers talking about these. You certainly could see these go up a lot, but I think as a really cool niche collector item for that type of money, that's really nice value for in terms of like what you're going to enjoy as a collector. I think they're cool. Definitely would prefer from me a 9 at around like 120 than a 10 at like 400 or 500 or whatever they would go for. For that type of card from me. Generally speaking, the more kind of rare or promo or niche thing, the less I care about grade for me personally. A little bit. I kind of like the absolute rarity and would rather just like pay less to kind of own the card.
Yeah, and people who know me know that I'm not a 10 guy whatsoever. So I'm almost always going to opt for the 9 unless there's some crazy thing going on and the multipliers not too much.
So it looks like this Meganium in October sold for $480 in a PSA 10, and the most recent one in November is $255. So, yeah, I mean, if there's like a big correction on these, that's something that I would be, looking at. Maybe now's a decent time to pick one up, that type of thing. I don't see a lot here on the market, and the ones I'm seeing on the market are like well overpriced compared to those. So that's something that you can see in some of these niche cards, which is why it's really good to do your research on what they've been selling, actively selling for an auction, because sometimes for these more niche cards, there are some really low auctions. I'm going to throw like the world promos in this. And then you also get these really high auctions. You got a really high auction recently. So it's kind of whoever's watching. Like sometimes with these auctions, like the right people just aren't watching. And so it's only one person who might be interested. Whereas if there were 2 people, the price could literally go double, that type of thing.
Yeah. When something's really niche, and I mean, how niche it is, being more niche makes it a little less liquid, a little more illiquid.
Yeah.
So just the nature, like if I'm seeking those out, if I really, really want them, I might be searching daily or weekly to see new listings for it. But if it's so niche that there's not that many listings, you almost might slip an auction through without people even realizing it. So then, yeah, you can, Pokemon cards in general don't have a set price, but when you get to something so specific like that, the range is going to be even wider.
And particularly in this market right now, there was a long period where I felt like no auctions were getting by anyone. There were just so many people like at all times. But now I do feel like I'm seeing actually some more fluctuations on certain auctions for that very reason, that I think that there are genuinely some auctions that are going fairly unnoticed.
And Kai did say in the chat, he said he's been buying up lots of low value metals in PSA 8 to 9 for about $100.
Yeah.
So to me, like Jake said, I don't see that being like, that's not your retirement, I don't think, but it feels like, relatively speaking to a lot of things I see in that price range, feels like good value, relatively speaking, to some of the things I sell for 100.
Yes, well, definitely that.
Yeah.
But I even think, even just for me, and when I look at like some of the deals I'm getting on stuff like that would make me happy to buy one of those at that price. Like I would enjoy adding that to my collection. It would feel good. It would feel like a positive feeling. I think that those were around $50 at one point, and you could probably get some 10s, maybe 60 to 80. I want to say, I'm trying to think 50, 80, maybe somewhere in there, 9s, maybe a little bit less. But like when we compare it to most other things, those things have not gone up as much now that they're back down to some of those prices. Now the PSA 10s, obviously, at people buying them at 600, 700, 800, those might still be very, very high compared to what they once were. So also knowing the price history, and I like to know how much has something grown. Has it retraced like other things? Generally when something takes a big retrace, I tend to look at it a little bit more carefully. When something sort of hasn't retraced that much, doesn't mean you shouldn't buy it, but it also might mean that, like, why hasn't this retraced? Is it now more likely to retrace now that some of these other things have retraced? Is this the next thing to retrace? That type of stuff. Lots to consider. Australian Blaster says, hope you enjoyed your vacation. What's your thoughts on Japanese 20th anniversary Pikachu Holo Battle Festa sign printed by Arita. A lot of
sounds yeah, that was a lot of. Okay, so the 20th, that's the one with the, I was pretty sure that was the one with the starters, right?
yeah, it's the one with the
the Kanto starters.
Yeah.
Pikachu in the middle, and then Squirtle, Charmander, Bulbasaur. I don't think I've never owned one. I like it a lot, but it's a lot of money. For me, I don't see myself picking one up soon. Let me see what the last 9 sold for. I don't even see a recent sale for a 9. But I see a PSA 6 that sold for $1,100. I generally only like to collect mint cards, and I guess I just like missed the boat on that one. And there's a lot of other things I'd rather get for that amount of money, personally.
Yeah, I had a couple of opportunities to pick up the full set with the Mew. Those are the ones he's talking about. You know, the ones with like the signature on it. So there's the one that has them all on it, with the starters one that you're talking about, right? But then there's the ones that have the signature part.
Okay, I might be looking at the.
Have you seen this? They're all part of the same set, though. They're all part of the same set.
I'm not even sure I'm familiar with that then.
Okay. Yeah, they were all part of the same set from that year, and there was a Mew, a Pikachu. I have to look up the others. So I'll be completely honest with you guys. I never liked these that much, but people really like them. They have gone up in value so much. I do own a set of them because I just sort of like bought one of everything from these types of eras. But like I missed the boat on these, or when I looked at these, now the one with all the starters on it, I bought a couple of those because that one hit more. But like the signed ones, they were at the time I heard that they were actually fairly rare. Like these were not cards that there were massive amounts of, but I didn't see the extreme appeal, and I just kind of missed it. I missed this. So they definitely, to me, feel pretty niche. Dan doesn't even, hasn't heard of them. I think that there are a lot of people who you probably, if you saw them, you'd recognize them and probably have seen them before, but these are cards that I have not thought about in a while. And I had to look up to just double check to make sure that I knew what we were talking about. Because there's the 2016, and then I want to say that there's also a kind of similarly released. There's the other one I'm trying to think of, which I forget which year it is. I remember watching a long time ago, watching what's his name, Unlisted Leaf, talk about one of these cards, and I saw the price go from like no one was interested in it to like hundreds of dollars in like a couple of days after he talked about it. Yeah. I believe these cards are like thousands of dollars now, some of them. So let me look up sold listings on it and see what I've got here. So it's the, just so you can look it up, Dan, it's the 2016 Hollow Batafesta, like Arita, the Arita signature thing on it. It has like the sparkle pattern. I will tell you guys that a card like this, I would much rather buy like a WotC era, old back Japanese, like vintage, a fan club play promo. I just like those a lot better than this, for me personally. And when we get into this like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 price range, that's where I'm at. Now, do I think that is that investment advice? No. I think you should buy what you like. I think if you like these, I think the rarity on these could be quite good. The idea that they're like the 2016, 2016 anniversary can have some impact on people. People might like that. Again, I just don't understand. I don't understand the price point on this compared to some of that older stuff, just because I feel like that older stuff is like the original Pokemon era. And I just think it's It's a similar feeling I have on a lot of the modern sort of Pikachu promo cards. I just think that they're all very overvalued compared to the vintage Pikachu promo and other types of promo cards. So
Yeah, I just pulled up the one I found on eBay. There's a population of 189 PSA 10s, it looks like.
yeah.
And it's a several $1,000 card. So yeah, I mean that feels I don't know if that art, I'd imagine that art.
Yeah.
Is that exclusive? I don't even know.
So Australian Blastoise, it had to be won with accumulated points in the event. The Mew and Pikachu were worth 12 points. Yeah. So this set, let me see if I can remember for you guys. So I think I used to see this set, all of the cards together sell, I want to say for $500 to $1,000. And now like each one is selling for like $2,000 mint. So these have like exploded in value. So take that for what it's worth. Clearly very, very popular.
Yeah.
I bought, for me, I bought that like Champions Festival stamped, right? The Champion stamped card for around $6,000. There's 6 of those cards in the entire world. I think it's older, more historic, more important to the hobby, also has Pikachu on it. When we're talking about like, $4,000 or $5,000 for a PSA 10, potentially, I'm looking at some of these, it just becomes sort of like, they're in completely different classes to me of cards. So in both the historic, the rarity, I mean, the only thing that you could argue is like, you like the look of this card better, which would be, subjective and understandable. So
yeah, I'm on the same page with you. In that price range, I'd much rather that card you picked up, the festival.
Yeah, and you don't like them, so
yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of those either. I mean, I like them, but relative to their value, I don't like them as much as the market does.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of questions already.
Yeah.
On the Logan Paul case.
Okay, let's see where we're at here. So, okay, yeah. Watts Fish says opinion to the case of LP. Saw you Rattle's masterpiece too. Yeah, I commented on Rattle's video today. Opinions on Logan Paul.
Opinions on the case, right?
Yeah. On the Logan Paul case, yeah.
I saw the first 2 videos Rattle made, and I remember some rumblings back when it sold. Now the rumblings are kind of growing into a very loud roar. And it seems as if, per an Instagram post that I saw, Logan Paul and that Shine guy are actually taking the case back to BBCE, and they're going to open it and attempt to verify the contents. So it seems like we're going to get resolution within the coming weeks. The evidence that Rattle provided towards the UPC, the barcode not matching up to the letters above, seems pretty solid. If I had to say one way or another, I mean, I'm leaning toward, well, I guess I won't even say whether or not I think it's real. We're going to find out soon. I don't know how much value there is in speculating. I don't have a horse in this race, but it seems like there's some reasonable evidence mounting, and that's leading the owner to verify. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like him like attacking Rattle and saying like, I'm going to sue you and you better get good lawyers. I just watched his most recent one. I actually missed his middle video. I think I watched part of the first, and I watched the whole, this last one.
And that's the expert, right? Or that's,
yeah.
There's three main people. I think there was Mealy Pops, Pokiju.
I believe that was Jake. It could have been Mealy Pops. I'm not even sure. I don't even know, but it's very like, what I wrote on Rattle's channel is what I believe, which is, one, I don't have an opinion about whether or not it's real. I think it's completely fine. and should be encouraged for Rattle to do like research and share his opinions. And I think it's interesting. And if anyone else, wants to share opinions, no, I've long held the opinion, although it's definitely guided a lot by just people I've talked to for a long time in the hobby and other hobbies, that there's a reason why they don't authenticate booster boxes, and authenticating a booster case seems even more ridiculous than authenticating the individual booster boxes as a novice, as someone who doesn't do authentications. Maybe it's easier because it's easier to actually authenticate for whatever reason that a case is legitimate and hasn't been tampered with than a booster box and its seal. It'd be great if they came out and they like educated us truthfully on the process and why this is an authenticated box. It could be a really cool YouTube video that a lot of us would watch, and it could be a great learning experience. What concerns me is when you hear, and I've heard both Rattle talked about it in his video, but I've also heard it from friends of mine in the community who have had interactions with him in the past, saying things like, we don't touch Pokemon booster boxes. No one can authenticate those a few years ago. And now suddenly he's authenticating like, this extremely expensive box. There's a lot of like reasonable stuff that like you raise an eyebrow about, and when the guys who, Jake or some of these guys say, I'm 10,000% that it's authentic and I'm going to sue you for like defamation. Like, how am I supposed to take that as a normal person? Like when I see that type of behavior, now, is it possible, like, did Rattle say something just like awful to him, like before that he cut out or something to like rile him up? And like, I have no idea, but like, will you see that in that sort of context, within the context of Rattle's video, as a just human, you feel like, okay, buddy, first of all, like no one should be a 10,000% on anything or 100% on anything, any sort of guarantee. And he said in the video too, like something like, I guarantee this box is going to go to $10 million or something in a year or a couple of years. So this is a guy who likes to throw out these ridiculous claims, like it's 10,000% definitely authentic. And, the reality of these grading companies, and if you actually asked anyone at these grading companies, they would say, of course, things get through us that are not authentic. It is impossible to be 100% authentic. There's going to be really strong fakes. PSA has let through, obviously there's famous examples that the FBI is investigating, on the Honus Wagner, PSA 8 that was, whatever. But there's tons of other examples and packs that have been resealed. When someone opens it, it's actually a resealed pack. Like these things happen. I think it's the lack of transparency and the guarantee and the level of money. And it's so weird. It's this very strange case of, here's a booster box that like a lot of people were skeptical of for a long time. And now all of a sudden it's selling for millions of dollars. And I have a bit of a problem with people calling themselves experts on like authenticating sealed product when, I think of people like, I don't know if there are necessarily any experts in that, or I would call anyone like an expert in that. I think they're like, how do you master, like, I don't think it's something that, we see people like Rusty, who's handled tons and tons of boxes, have a fake box in his collection for many years that he didn't know about it. We see, PokeRev, like lots of people handle a lot of product who are really smart guys who have fake products in their possession. And I don't view that as like, they're not an expert or they're not as good as it gets. I view it as like, it's impossible to catch everything, or it seems that way. Now, if it isn't, they should explain to me or us, ideally, how they're so sure and how they're positive. And I think the problem with all of this is, I very much hope the box is real, because like, I don't want a bunch of people to get screwed and there to be all this sort of anger and drama. But the problem is, even if it is real, which I hope it is, like, I don't think the behavior around it was probably that great. Certainly around guaranteeing it's going to be $10 million. I think guaranteeing 100% that it's authentic, is questionable. And so that's where I'm currently at. But I'd be happy to be proven wrong, in the sense that, like, if he came out and he was like, this is how we knew it was authentic, and this is where like Rattle got it wrong and a bunch of these other Pokemon people got it wrong, I would be, the first person, I'd be happy to be like, wow, like I learned something, because I don't know how to authenticate that, and I've never tried it, and that's where I'm at, I guess with it, Dan. But
yeah, and I can understand a little bit the hesitancy to like completely give a backstage view of how all this works. Like if they were to just,
for a
we put
competitive
it in
advantage or
this
something, like they don't want to give away their secrets.
part competitive advantage, and then
Yeah.
part like if you show how the entire authentication process is done, there's a potential
They could
that
fake
a
it.
bad actor could
Yeah,
have instructions on how to beat the authentication process.
you're
I
right.
don't know how valid that is, but it's a thought that I'm having. Yeah, I'm just not 100% sure.
I think that's really smart, Dan. I didn't consider that.
It's Yeah, I mean, if you get like really, if they walked you through whether that was a 5-minute process or a 3-hour process, the complete authentication of that, if they live streamed that from every angle and showed everything, like potentially it could be the playbook for how to dupe them, or maybe not. I don't really know. That's just a thought that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that. Gosh, I hadn't thought of that. And if that is the case, then perhaps it is we just take their word for it, basically, and trust him, trust the situation, at face value. I do think that sometimes you have to do that. I don't know. The whole like 10,000%, the whole like we're going to sue you for defamation, and the whole like Pokeju, I think, came out on Instagram and said that he's going to share proof that shows that it's real or something. Like all of that stuff makes me lean on the side of like, because let me put myself in their shoes. Okay. I would literally just come out and say what you just said. I would say, hey, this guy's very trustworthy, but he can't come out, or he could come out and say that, right? And maybe he will, but we can't show our process because we don't want, bad actors to get a hold of it, and or we're afraid of people. Ooh.
I'm losing sound a little bit.
Oh, can people hear me?
I don't know. That's probably just me.
Okay. It's possible I'm
yeah, I don't know if anyone else lost sound, but
yeah, if you guys can't hear me, let me know. But yeah. So I guess if I were in that situation and you were right in I think the really smart points you brought up, I think that I would handle it very differently. I would come out and tell the truth, instead of, and just say that like, I'm very confident, he's very trusted, in the world, in this world, and he's not willing to kind of share what he does for the competitive advantage, and also maybe, and more importantly, so that people can get around it. And then we as a community and people just have to decide, like, do you trust that, or not? But I'm always very, when someone jumps to like defamation lawsuits against a channel with like 1,000, 200 people, and threatens them, and then says I have $150 million net worth and I can bury you, like that type of person, I tend to be very sort of like questionable behavior. So yeah. I know you haven't seen the newest video, but
I skimmed through it quickly before we half an hour ago. But yeah, I'll watch the whole thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Chat is saying that you're fine too. I just had Zoom was like something was coming unplugged. I think I tightened up my speaker connection. Something weird was going on, but yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see if a video of some kind is made. It sounds as if they're going to crack the seal, the wrap seal, and then I don't know if they're going to crack the actual stop tape, pull out the contents, Whether then they would continue to crack a box, I don't really know, but it'll be cool to see. One thing, people really like drama. Drama gets clicks, and it gets, if somehow the case makes it way back to BBCE, and then they just say, yep, we checked it, it's all good, 100%. Logan's happy, we're happy, we rewrapped it, and there's nothing further shown, that will not be accepted by a lot of people. That'll be 100%. That'll be like tinfoil hats coming out, all kinds of things going on. And again, I won't have any stake in it. I won't really care too much, but like that'll ramp up the drama level for sure.
But I think in that case, it is reasonable to some extent, because there's so much money and people's reputations and big people's reputations on the line. And so many people want to save face.
Well, so if that happens and then they like put out some kind of public thing that it's like 100% verified, then they would really open themselves up to lawsuits down the line. Like basically if Logan and BBCE think, oh crap, we're in a tight spot, we're going to say it was all good, we're going to try to make sure this never sees the light of day, gets open, whatever. And then they come out with some public statement that this is 100% confirmed. We're not going to show you anything, but it is. And then 20 years from now, Logan sells it and somebody else opens it and it's fake. Well, now you've really gone the next level of like fraud and all of that.
That would never happen though. They would get rid of the evidence.
Yeah. I think like that just seems so unreasonable to me. I would think that it would be in everyone's best interest. Well, the two people who are going to be involved, Logan Paul and BBCE, it would be in their best interest now if it's fake to talk about it. I don't think they're going to want to bury it. The people who would want to bury it would be the people who it's not in their possession right now. Because it sounded like, again, on Instagram, other people talking about it, supposedly Shine is going to refund Logan Paul $3.5 million if it's not real. How he goes back up the line, how much money that is spent or isn't spent. If this guy's got $150 million, theoretically, he should be able to refund Shine. Yeah, whatever. I mean, we'll see what we see, but it's definitely going to be big news, whatever way it goes. And I'm sure there'll be conspiracy theories budding from whichever way it goes to.
Yeah. I mean, I think that people definitely lie, and people definitely lie. People definitely do things to chase clout. And there's a lot of ego involved and machismo and a lot of like Instagram followers and business partnerships and all sorts of things and people starting businesses, and all of these people involved are trying to start big successful businesses in the sports card and Pokemon world. So there's a lot on the line. There's a lot to lose. There's a lot of like potential greed involved and all sorts of things. So there's certainly a lot of reasons to be naturally skeptical. That being said, you should wish everyone the best always, and you should hope for the best. And I think you should generally give people the benefit of the doubt, but that doesn't mean that and this is just my personal opinion, it doesn't mean that you certainly don't back down. I mean, when someone threatens you, like they threaten Rattle, like that to me is that's a big no. Like I think good open discussion and conversation is important. So, I think that if someone, said some things about me or even lied about me, right. Now the first instinct is not, defamation lawsuit and I have $150 million and I can bury you. But again, now maybe Rattle said a bunch of negative things and really worked him up and taunted him and did all sorts of stuff behind the scenes. I really don't. Do you know Rattle?
No, I mean,
because he's an E4 member. Like he's a pretty long-term E4 member, isn't he?
Yeah, I've had minimal interaction through maybe like E4 messages over the years, and then more recently, like a couple YouTube comments back and forth. Yeah, but nothing. Never met him in person. Never really had any extensive
So it's tough. It's tough when you don't know someone. And again, if Rattle's watching this, this is nothing against you personally. I just said the same thing with Mike Waddell and so many other people we've had on the channel. It's like, if I don't have a long-term relationship with you, is it possible that you instigated this and are pissing him off and doing these sorts of things? Maybe, but it's also highly possible that you're doing an amazing job. You're doing great investigative journalism, and some big shots are trying to bury you and being huge dicks to you and attacking you and trying to bully you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's I'm keeping up with the current chat, just seeing if any interesting bits come in. So Gary Oak said something I wanted to comment towards. BBCE would never admit that it's fake. It would destroy their credibility. So right in their emails, whoever was emailing with BBCE, I mean, he admitted in an email that was shared on a YouTube video, watched tens of thousands of times, that some amount of stuff gets through. I would think that if BBCE were to say, especially if it ends up to where it was an unlimited case that had the ink modified on the thing on the sticker,
Yeah,
it would be easy enough for them to just come out and say, hey, we had never touched Pokemon before. We were happy with the tape. I heard something about they might do some kind of X-ray scan of it or some kind of a scan of it that looks for residue. I have no idea. But if he says, we checked this box, everything looked good, there was a vulnerability in our thing, the ink on the sticker got by us, we never had touched it before for certain reasons, we made a mistake, we're never going to touch it again. I would think that would be, it's not going to sink his business.
I will tell you though, that if the provenance, like if the three stories are true, like what Rattle said, if it's true that the guy who sold it had three different stories at different times and that was documented, this is a humongous problem. Because I can tell you, in the high-end art world, a huge way that they find fakes or that they distinguish authentic from inauthentic is who owned it and who passed it down, and hopefully it actually connecting to the artist or someone who knew the artist, and they can actually find the whole thread, particularly for very, very expensive things. And so, I mean, some of this could also just be like, they didn't do a great job and they needed to do more investigating on such a high-end item. Who knows?
Yeah,
that's where it gets into this whole who knows question. They may have done an amazing job and they're getting screwed right now. You know what I mean? So again, like, you have to put yourself in their shoes, right? Like, if you were in their shoes and you were getting screwed, and then you had to listen to a little channel like this, theorize that you're doing this and you're doing this and you should have done better, like, it would be very upsetting and frustrating. You know what I mean? So it's just tough. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be. The old card shop asks, whose reputation gets destroyed if it's fake?
Hopefully no one, in my opinion. Although I do think that honestly, the worst part of all of this is the way the way they're talking. Like the to me,
who are talking like clowns are going to be,
like the clowns and the expert, and like these guys, like, I have a bunch of product and I have a bunch of followers. So I'm some sort of like Pokemon God expert who knows everything about everything in this hobby. You will not find anyone in this hobby that I know of who would guarantee any of these things. Okay. And that doesn't mean that these two guys aren't very knowledgeable and are some of the biggest Pokemon experts in the hobby. I do not know them. I have not talked in detail with them about their extensive experiences. I know Pokeju's been in it for a long time, at least, and has been selling and has been handling sealed product for a really long time. And is probably someone who's very, very knowledgeable. I would imagine is very knowledgeable about the hobby, but there's a difference between being very knowledgeable. Now, he is not the person saying I 100% guarantee, I think. So again, it's this salesman-y marketing language that, like, for me, like, I will never do business with a person like that. I don't want to hang out with someone like it's I don't like that. So
yeah, I think that this could all come to a resolution. Well, one, the box could be real somehow. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
sure.
Whether or not they say,
but whether
hey,
or not it's real, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean they knew it was real 100%. That's the issue. Like, it's still ridiculous. Even if it's real, you've behaved like it's a ridiculous way to behave.
Definitely. It could end up being that it's real. And I guess one thing I'll comment on just to throw in, Rusty's done a lot of conversations about it. I've owned a lot of like base unlimited product. They were printing so much product back then. A lot of sports cards were being like discontinued so that they could print Pokemon.
Yeah.
To no end. I've owned hundreds of different base set unlimited packs, and there are so many different variants, colors, hues, saturations. Some are a little fuzzy, and whether how much of that applies to base first edition, how many different print facilities, if any, if more than one, I have no idea any of these things for base first edition. Maybe they don't apply. Maybe that was all printed only in one location. So every box, every sticker, everything should match 100%. But I know with base unlimited, there are so many different print runs, so many different variants, so many different oddities out there. So there is a reality in the future where like it all could be real. Whether we get the, hey, it's real, trust us, we rewrapped it, you're never going to see it, or whether we get pictures of like, or videos of, we opened it, it was first edition boxes. But yeah, then if it's fake, I mean, I think it could be fake, and we could have a resolution to where it's fake and nobody just gets destroyed. Like that's the most dramatic outcome, that BBCE closes its doors. And I mean, I think it could be fake and Logan Paul could get refunded, and one of these wealthy guys in the middle could just take a hit of $1 million, couple $1 million, whatever.
I hope it's real. I hope it's real. And I genuinely hope, like, I mean, Pokiju, like all these guys can be big and are probably majority, really positive forces for the hobby, and have done a lot of good and have made a lot of content and relationships and are building businesses and brands. And, I don't think that, hopefully it just gets resolved. It's positive, and maybe people mature a little bit. And maybe, and I did say on Rattle's video, and I do feel like this is true, there's been a lot of clout chasing in certain people this year. And I think people exaggerating their ability, let me put it that way, like exaggerating what they know, exaggerating their actual ability and things. So
do you think it's a strange sentiment to want this to be fake and to want everything to blow up as much as possible and be maximum drama?
No, I think it's understandable. Like I think it's understandable, both in terms of like, you just want to be entertained and you don't have the dog in the fight. I also think it's understandable from the perspective of just like, I don't think they deserve it. Like because the way they've acted, I want them to be punished with a fake box. Like they deserve it. Like that type of feeling, like you want them to be exposed. Like my concern, right, is they had no idea what they're doing. This is like, it's real worst case scenario. They have no idea what they're doing. Okay. They get lucky and it happens to be real despite, the multiple stories and all of the red flags, it ends up being real. They somehow sue Rattle or some other reasonable people for their feelings and trash them. And they go on some sort of awful offensive attack and like, we're the best and we're the biggest experts in the hobby and we know the best, and rather than taking it as an opportunity to be like humble and maybe like cooler heads prevail and just be like, hey, we really thought it was real. These were the reasons we thought it was real. It ended up being real. We ended up being, right in that, but we understand, why people are concerned, why this type of thing happened. And, it's a huge deal. We're of course relieved, and there is no guarantee ever in something like this, but we did the best we possibly could with our due diligence. And here's what we did, something like that. That would be the best resolution. And, ideally everyone, just kind of gets along reasonably and there's some sort of maturity and respect. But I guess it's not always the most fun, or sometimes the drama is fun and enjoyable, but it's scary, and there's a lot of like money and reputation and business and all sorts of things on the line for people. And brings out some ugliness. So can bring out some ugliness.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm on the same page with you in that my ideal outcome would just be that it's real. I mean, whether they open it up and show a video of the boxes contained being first edition, whether they crack all the way down to the packs, that's my ideal outcome. But I feel like the general public, it feels weird to me that the general sentiment, and maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe most people want it to be real and be like a not as dramatic of a finish. But I think that's like the leading desire for closure on this is maximum drama, which people like to be entertained. I mean, that reality TV, all those things like do really well, and tabloids, and I mean, there's like an entire market around drama and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. The psychologist in me wants to say something like, well, I think some controlled drama is good because it kind of allows us to like express ourselves and feel some of those feelings, but like not at the expense of, people's like well-being. So like in this case, like I do think that it's possible it could be at the expense like of some actual people's well-being and their business and other sorts of things. So we shouldn't like wish ill in that sense, but you're also like not a bad human being if you're wanting drama. Like that's a pretty normal thing to feel. So like hopefully you can keep that in check and not be a dick. I mean, it's kind of how I would maybe round that out. Not be a jerk about it, right? And like understand that like you're like what is not the most important thing in the world is your entertainment.
Yeah,
there are other things. All right. Okay. I guess we should start moving through these questions.
We got that one out of the way. We knew it was going to end up coming.
Okay. I'm sure that one will be throughout. So, okay. And I guess if people have follow-up questions on that, they can ask it, throughout, and we'll try to pick it up because it's an interesting discussion.
Are you're staying up higher in the chat? If you want to stay up higher in the chat, I can stay towards the bottom, the live chat, and then just let
Sounds like
me
a
know.
good strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a follow-up or something. Yeah. Okay.
We'll split up and we can get more productive results.
Pokevest says, what's your opinion on Diamond and Pearl era cross-hashed league promos? Oh boy, we're getting asked a lot of like fairly niche stuff. Okay.
Super nice.
They're about $1 each in near mint. Opinions?
I own some, I'm sure. They're really, really niche. I like them more than certain $1 things, but it's not something I guess the collector side of me, I don't really do variants. I'm like boring and I don't collect reverse hollows. I don't really go crazy into the nitty gritty and all the tiny variants. So something like that wouldn't even show up on my radar at all from a collector's perspective. From a business / speculator, honestly, I think it's like too niche to really do much value wise. But I guess if it's that cheap though, too, if it's $1, if they're $1 near mint, I want to say like I recall some Leafeons, some more like popular species. Those are probably more than $1 though, if I had to speculate on that.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look now to see what the prices are.
Yeah,
that's sort of a range.
It wouldn't surprise me. They probably go for quite a wide range because they're just super niche down multiple levels. You're at a really, really like low time in the hobby, the Diamond and Pearl era, for even the set stuff. So when you get more specific as like a league promo, how many people were playing, there might be some chase there. There might be some like genuine scarcity in some of them. They're just not something that really interests me, honestly.
Gosh, it depends what you're doing, right? Like, it depends what you're, are you speccing on them? Do you just really like them? You think they're good value, part collector, part spec? I mean, they're definitely undervalued. I can tell you that much. Now, what path do I see them becoming more valuable or going up? I mean, if you took like $10,000 and just continuously wipe them out for a while, like they'd go up quite a bit. The problem is you'd probably be bidding against yourself, bidding them up on yourself. Like generally buyouts like that are often most effective if you can kind of do them slowly over time and just buy all of them at a floor price. You'll probably see them, start to move up. Obviously, if people start talking about them, know about them more, there's a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff in Pokemon, and there's so much stuff like that. They're definitely undervalued as compared to a lot of other things, though, I would say. They're just a lot more niche, than even like a baby shiny. If we want to say a baby shiny is, and baby shiny is a little bit cheaper. So I think a lot of them are a little bit more than that, $1, $2, $3, maybe $4. You obviously also have like the different variations. You have like the staff, and then you have like the some of the placed ones, which can be quite a bit more, I think. Undervalued, I would say, overall, but not really sure how to predict any sort of price movement. If you like them, picking them slowly up over time, cool collector pieces. I think Diamond and Pearl in general, a lot of just like the regular hollows, some reverse hollows you can get for 50 cents, some like near mint, nice looking ones. They're great. They're great collector's items. They have some nice age to them. They're from packs that are extremely, extremely expensive. So the value you're getting from just buying that card raw instead of trying to pull that card or something from a pack is just really huge. If Pokemon does well, wouldn't be surprised if you they went up considerably over time. Yeah. I don't see why they wouldn't necessarily, but I don't know. Yeah, we're definitely getting asked some cards that are just very hard to predict, but certainly at some of those prices, I would say undervalued. I think all of the ones we talked about are fairly undervalued, at least as compared to, your alternative arts or something like that, your English alternative arts. So, yeah. Anything else on that, Dan? Move to the next one.
You say Booyah mentioned, and I've seen these before too, like sealed packs. I don't know if those came in like bricks, but he mentioned sealed packs and sealed bricks of those being a thing. I've definitely seen like on Facebook, whether they were players back then or whether they were judges or whatever, but I've seen people with like 25 count, 50 count sealed packs. So even though it was a more niche, a lower period in the hobby and like a very niche thing, there might be more out there than you realize.
Yeah. And this is going to be like my limited knowledge. Like I would want to know what was the release like for all the different ones, and were there different types of releases? Were they all released the same ways? Or some of them going to be a little bit harder to find, beyond just looking at the popular Pokemon, trying to read for articles on Bulbapedia, then on E4, then talking to people who were at the events, people like DJ Gigabyte, David Person, trying to get any information. Now, I don't know if they go to any of those events or they might just be Worlds. So, I don't know, but people who were players back then, even Echo-based collectibles, although I think he wasn't here during that period, just try Joe from Omnipoke, I think might be a good resource. These types of people who have just been around, were at these collector events, might have a little bit of insight. Again, I think if people knew about these, knew how they were released, knew how many they were roughly, that would create more interest in them. And we're not, when you know what you own, it creates more collectability. And so kind of that feeling of like, I'm not sure exactly what this is, creates that hesitance to buy them, right? Because you're like, well, how do I value this? How do I appropriately assess this compared to this other thing if I don't have the information on it? Does anyone in the chat know more about them, more details? Feel free to share with us. Motomon says, do you see any reason to grade a card with one of those new grading companies? Would you personally ever use one?
A few months ago, I actually talked about my intent just to try out like AGS. I think they're like the RoboGrade people. HGA, they're like a primarily sports card company that does the label color matching. DSG, Diamond Service Grading. I had a few of them on my radar. I started collecting cards to send to some of them. I got too busy and I never did it. In hindsight, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I think a lot of these just aren't going to survive PSA fully reopening. I think CGC will, but I'm going to be dropping a video next week where I kind of discuss the fact that even CGC, I'm unlikely to continue grading with for various reasons. The market loves PSA. People like, in my opinion, relatively speaking, relative to CGC, people like the easier grade, and relative to BGS as well. People like the ease at which PSA gives out 10s, in my opinion. So the fact that CGC, a lot of the cards I'm submitting, that I'm pretty comfortable where they'd land on the PSA grading scale. I'm when I send out a submission of 500 cards, I've got to handle roughly 20%, 30%, 40% PSA 10s, PSA 9s, where I'm going to end up. And CGC has definitely shocked me in being half a grade to a full grade lower than my familiarity with PSA. So when you're looking grade for grade, CGC prices are generally lower. But then when you add in the fact that, from my experiences, the grade is going to be lower in the CGC case on top of it, it's really just killing the value. And their cost is so much more too, and their turnaround is also terrible. So I think CGC is going to survive, and I think they're going to stick around, but so many of these other ones aren't going to survive. So yeah, I don't think it's worth grading with them.
Yeah, I think CGC is also banking on, I mean, first of all, it's a huge business that is grading all sorts of things well outside of cards. But, I think that they're probably also just going to, depending on and betting on non-sports cards continue to become more of a grading thing. And they're now grading 11 different types, of TCGs. So I think they're going to really try to focus on modern in all of these TCGs, including Pokemon, and just trying to get some sort of respectable, solid share. As far as like financially, what I would do, I definitely would not be grading with them until they prove, it just makes no sense. You should just wait. If the market starts to appreciate it, and it already has to a certain extent, for sure the gap is closed. But if the market really starts to see them as the same, then of course it's reasonable, depending on the turnaround times and all sorts of things financially. As a collector, it's just about your personal preference, and I do think that, like, if you prefer CGC, you like those subgrades, which I think is probably the biggest seller for CGC. Obviously you also have BGS, you have Beckett as a solid option for that, as well as like a million other grading companies right now, doing that. But then I would understand as a collector why you would want to know specifically, a little bit more details about why your card graded a 9 or a 9.5 or an 8.5 or whatever. That could be appealing. You prefer the case, or you've already started grading a set in CGC and you just like having it all be the same. I think all of that's very understandable, but you don't need us to tell you about what you like to collect. That's why we try to answer things more from that investment perspective based on our experiences, but I think that for me personally, if I wanted to collect CGC sets, I would just buy the cards already graded, generally speaking, in this current market, rather than actually grade. Like, it'd be so few and far between where it would probably make more sense to grade something right now, rather than just to buy the card already graded. So
that's what I was going to follow with. Like, the fact that I'm going to stop grading with them is because I'm not seeing the same value that I think I'd get for them in a PSA case. But that said, I bought a lot of CGC slabs in 2021, and I'm going to continue that in 2022, because I think there's a lot of value out there in the 8.5 to 9.5 range specifically. I'm not saying every CGC 8.5 can cross to a PSA 9, but I'm quite confident some of them can. And same thing goes for 9.5s to 10. When the CGC pop report comes out, I think that we can look at promos like Snorlax is pointing at, and we can see where the bell curve lands. If PSA is grading 60-70% of these as PSA 10s, and CGC is only grading 5% of them as 10s, 30% of them as 9.5s, I mean, we can really get kind of an idea where they land, because a card like that, 99% of them being submitted are pack fresh mint. It's a very modern product, high quantity, high quality.
As far as like the other companies outside of PSA, CGC, and I honestly, for me, Beckett's third. For Pokemon. For other things, I put it a little bit higher, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, for Pokemon, I would stick to PSA or CGC, and really, I just stick to PSA. I've never graded a card of CGC. I don't know when I will, but I bought a ton of CGC cards. I probably have, I'm exclusively, to be completely honest with you, I'm probably buying 80% CGC right now. It probably would turn out to be in the last couple of months. So.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same boat there.
So, all right. And in large part, that's also because that's what's actually, there are these just massive things that people send out to CGC that they were part of the reason why I was telling people last month, and, that there are people who are kind of more bearish on like, well, there's so many more graded cards coming back. Yes, but those graded cards coming back, people have started spending more for each case. So there was kind of a window in the last few months going into maybe a few more months where you had people who could sell you their cards at $11 a slab and they'd still break even or make like $1 or $2 profit. That's about to disappear. And so I have a feeling that you're going to stop seeing people auction them off as much. And I've already noticed that there was a period where I was buying like 50 slabs a day for under like $11 each, solid, good. And we've had this conversation. This is not P4s. This is,
not blind buying.
Generally nines and higher, baby shinies, rainbow rares and higher, type of cards, some full arts, these types of cards, vintage, some commons, uncommons, first edition, ideally rares, from WotC, that type of stuff, reverse hollows, from EX era, Diamond and Pearl, some hollow, these types of cards, that sort of quality. You were seeing people sell it in that range. And I think that you really understanding like that's the type of high level stuff that's going to really help you get good deals. It's really understanding, okay, these sellers really want to get rid of it, and how much money do they have in it? And can I then find a win-win situation where they're still making $1, they're getting out of a card they really don't want, and I'm getting into a card at like in a much cheaper price than I could get in now because of all the raised prices of grading and the time it would take to wait and the shipping fees and all these types of things. So you can create these sort of small periods where there's sort of like these win-wins that can work, that don't last forever. So you want to take advantage of those things when they pop up. Okay. Andreas Fan says, hey guys, what do you think about the early Japanese Bandai Yu-Gi-Oh cards? Do you know these?
I know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh.
He's talking about these. I actually have a couple here.
I know Blue Eyes White Dragon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love them. I'm collecting a 10 set, or this is a 9 actually, but I'm working on collecting a 10 set. A lot of them haven't even been graded in 10 yet, but it's a collector thing for me. So do I think they could go up a lot in value? Sure, why not? Do I think they will? I have no idea. I just like them as a collector. There are a lot more of them out there. They do not grade very well. They grade, from conversations I've had with people who do have some sealed boxes left, they graded about an 8% 10 rate fresh out of pack. So super hard to grade. It's part of why there are so few 10s, although there's some cards that have very few graded at all. The reason that these cards have not been graded at all very much is, one, there's not probably that much sealed left, although there must be, quite a bit. There just must be, in Japan. But the main danger of these is they've never been that valuable. When something isn't that valuable, it doesn't bring that supply out. It doesn't create that incentive, particularly in a product in Japan, to make its way all the way to the West. So that's always the anxiety and the worry about something like this as well. Okay, so it doubles in price. then how many people are then have these in their collection, are going to be grading them, are going to be searching and looking for them in Japan, and how much is that going to flood the pop report when we're thinking about it financially? As a collector, love them, love the art, game's cool, yeah, pre LOB, pre Konami. So I think it's really cool. It gives me to give people an example. I think it gives me like 1997 card ass Pokemon vibes in terms of like how cool I like that set for Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I like the monster card ass 1997, the Prism stuff for Pokemon. Let me know if there are any like questions or follow-up comments or anything, and I'll just keep going through the questions. See how many we can get through. Sean John says, question, I think a lot of people, including myself, got caught up in the investment excitement after Logan Paul and bought everything they saw for sealed collection. Just comments here. All super modern. You see people with one or two items or everything for investment and to sorry, I thought it was a question. Oh no, it is a question. Hold on. You see people with one or two items or everything for investment and to catch them all. Not sure the question. Let's see. I guess he's asking us, do we think that that's true? I'm not sure. Question. I think a lot of people, including myself, got caught up in the investment excitement after Logan Paul. Oh, it skips like 4 other people commented in between. Let me see. Okay. The end of the question is, for investment purposes, what would you recommend people do? I think a lot of people are in this camp. Thanks. I think I'll just hold for fun and hope it goes back up in value 5 years from now. Gotcha.
Oh, so people who bought vintage sealed during the Logan Paul bubble.
Mm.
So like if I had a base unlimited box,
I think he's talking about, I think he said a lot of modern. Oh, everything modern. They saw for sealed collection, all super modern, he said specifically. All super modern. For investment purposes, what should they do?
So if I'm sitting on like Vivid Voltage boxes that I paid $200 for.
Yeah, something like that.
If I didn't need the money, and I had other good, useful things to do with the money, I would sell it, take my losses, and then like deploy that capital into something more immediately productive. If I need the money, I mean, I'd sell it to like fund my life. If I needed it to pay my bills, cut your losses, pay your bills. Don't like destroy your credit and make things worse over sitting on it. Because I think something like, if we're talking really modern, if we're talking Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze, and especially Evolving Skies, things of that nature, those are going to be in print for another year or two, I would think. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see the ability to get Evolving Skies booster boxes. I mean, right now, I think they're under 100, right? That could last.
I think it's like more like 104.
So that could last for a little while, and it could continue down if Pokemon just really keeps hammering the print runs. That said, if you don't really have anything else productive to do with the money and you don't need that money, sitting on them until they potentially rebound within 5 years, 10 years. I mean, you can do that too. I think I get to talk more generally to step away from this specific question. If you're doing it as an investment, as a speculative play, sometimes it's better to like take the loss and then move on to the next play. Like some people get too hung up on, I'm not going to lose money ever, so I'm just going to ride this thing. And then the opportunity cost is like furthering their losses. So, I mean, if you're trying to day trade Pokemon, if you're trying to like day trade stocks, you don't want to get all your capital locked up into one bad play and then just ride it horizontal for the next 5 years while everything else while other things are doing productive things that you could get into. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, the problem, right, is like we're not financial advisors, one, but two, like we could not possibly give any blanket financial advice. And Dan's answer was really getting to this point. It would really so depend on your current situation in your life and like what your goals were. Were you trying, how much money you wanted to, like, how much extra money do you have? Like, what's your investment situation like? When do you want to retire? How much money do you have? What are your current life expenses? Like there'd be so many like specifics we'd that I'd want to know in order to really answer, like, what would I do if I were exactly in your position? I think generally speaking, okay, let's just say that I don't have any debt. Okay. Don't have any debt. If you have debt on those boxes and you have no way of paying off the debt, and you're going to be paying like, 15% a year, 23% a year. And, you're going to be now increasing, you're going to now need that box to go like up 50% or something in a year in order to like break even. Like you should sell the box. It's painful, but you should sell the boxes and pay off the debt. Like mathematically. Now it might be too emotionally painful. I get that. But just speaking mathematically, you should do that. You should get a second job to keep the Pokemon boxes if you want and pay off the debt. If you were not in debt, you have a good income to meet all your basic needs. Again, my opinion, I would be wanting to be investing like 15% or so of like my salary in something, a bit more dividend paying and or just traditional. If I was doing that already, and I could afford to hold these boxes and you want to hold them and they're fun and they're enjoyable and you can put them up there and they're not upsetting you, it's fine. I mean, I think like selling Vivid Voltage at like $104 right now is not that appealing. Like if it was still at 140, that would be quite a bit more appealing. At like 104 after eBay fees, I'm getting, and shipping, I'm getting closer to 90. It's just not that appealing. Like now, if I had hundreds and hundreds of those boxes, maybe I'd sell half, maybe I'd get out some of it. I think it would also have to do right, and this is where we can get into the weeds of like, what are you going to do with that money? Are you going to put that money into stocks? Are you going to put that money back into Pokemon, into something else? Is this really about collecting and building a really cool collection? Maybe you should sell some of that and put it in, something else. But, there's a big danger of like, you take a big loss on something and then you sell it, It's like, and then you're going to move it into something that like maybe is then also going to fall because it's even more risky in Pokemon. It's like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to buy like alternative art PSA 10s. I know you're probably not going to do that, but it's like, there's always that risk too of like, you take it out. Now you're taking the 10% eBay fee hit. You're taking the shipping fee, and now I'm going to put it back into like a new product that I might get hit again. I think Vivid Voltage at $104. I feel a little bit bullish on modern Pokemon. I do think that Vivid Voltage was way overvalued. I think part of it was the hype on Amazing Rares and the value and the price of those Amazing Rares that pushed up that box. You obviously also had the Rainbow Rare Pikachu and these types of things, but I do think that Vivid Voltage, like I like Evolving Skies as a set much better than Vivid Voltage as a whole. Both are $104 right now. I'd much rather buy Evolving Skies and open Evolving Skies and enjoy that than Vivid Voltage at 104. It's kind of tough. It's kind of tough with that set. It has been now printed quite a bit. That's part of why it's sitting pretty low. Yeah, you can make cases on both sides. I think I'd probably, if I was holding a bunch of cases, I'd probably sell a portion of it and put that money into like stocks if it were me or something like that. I'd sell some portion of it, put it into stocks. But ideally, I would want to be in a position where I would probably already be putting the amount of money I want to in something like a stock, and I would just kind of like let it ride. I guess that's my honest answer for myself. So,
and regardless of whether you sell it or hold it, learn from it for sure. One thing that I've always said and will always continue to say, Pokemon sets, historically speaking, are in print for 2 years. during that 2-year window, and in the case of evolutions, 4 or 5-year window, distributors or businesses are able to buy from distributors in the mid 70s. So if you're paying double that, potentially, I mean, Vivid Voltage, I sold some cases for $1,200, I want to say, nearly triple that. And then are you paying sales tax and all that on top of it? I would never advise towards that. I was instantly selling every case that I got, knowing that I'd get more because it's still in print. So whatever you do with it, just learn from that and know that into the future, I mean, history doesn't guarantee it's going to be replicated in the future, but historically speaking, these boxes are going to be available at or under $100 a piece for at least 2 years after their release. I mean, there's been a 20-something year history of that in Pokemon, with only the past 12 to 24 months kind of bucking that trend.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this moment to say some negative things about evolutions because it's been a while. But evolutions staying at $600 is a modern miracle. Like, it is a miracle that I can buy 9 Chilling Reigns booster boxes for the price of 1 Evolutions booster box, or I can get 6 Evolving Skies for the price of 1 Evolutions booster box. Evolving Skies is so much better than Evolutions. Evolutions is a garbage reprint set. Again, we get into these highly subjective things, but like, it's just so much more fun and interesting to open with a lot of variety and enjoyment and new things where you can just buy. So, I just want to take that moment to say some negative things about that. But for me, there's still a lot of just like craziness and irrationality in some booster box prices, including evolutions, including other things. Whereas like when I see Chilling Reigns or Battle Styles or some of these newer sets, like the deflated price, like you should be taking advantage, in my opinion. Like I would be selling some of these other booster boxes and moving my money, okay, from a purely financial perspective into these booster boxes right now, or these products, if you're very bullish on modern in general, into these products that are getting hammered right now because of all these waves coming at once, and because all of these huge stores way over leveraged themselves and need to get rid of the product. Okay. And that's all combining within a huge sort of like a negative moment, and negative feelings. And so, Vivid Voltage, unfortunately has been hit, quite hard because it got the reprint. Some of these other sets didn't get the reprint, but they're actually worse sets and they're selling for a lot more. So I would be more inclined to hold something like a Vivid Voltage after it getting hit with the reprint. And I'd be selling things and buying the reprinted stuff. That's me personally, but you probably have a window to do that in. So I don't know. What do you think?
Commenting on like the verbiage around it, I've seen talks of a bubble popping in modern, talks of it getting hammered, it getting I don't think any of those words are appropriate. I think it's returned to the price that it historically always has been when inside of the print window. I wouldn't call any of these things like, I just think it's kind of a nitpicky, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but I think it's important to put it in the right context that Vivid Voltage is so modern that it's still in print. It's not like it got hammered with an unjust, unfair reprint that you couldn't have expected. I think it was fully expected, fully should have been to have been buying Vivid Voltage at $200, thinking that it was going to continue up. That would have been, for that to have happened, that would have been an historically black swan type thing. Mm-hmm. That hasn't happened. I mean, aside from like Evolutions, what that did, but again, that was 4 or 5 years out. I don't know. And I guess
and Evolutions is the reprint of base set, and so it just was. People love it, right? It was just sold to them as that, so that's why people love it. So it's this weird sort of anomaly, but like, Like, honestly, would I have bought, if I was forced, gun to my head, to buy Evolutions at the time, it was probably $800 or something. I don't know, $700, $750, whatever it was. I think it might have been even 1,000 when Vivid Voltage was 200. I'm not sure. I would all day have bought Vivid Voltage at 200 over buying Evolutions at $1,000 a box all day, every day. And I would have lost because actually now Evolutions has retraced 40%. So it would have been pretty rough. But this has retraced almost 50%. Now it's not much of a difference, right? They both been hit a lot. But one got hit with a reprint and got hit a lot. That's a set that I would prefer to hold. The other one didn't get any reprint. There's no new product. It's just stupid.
And I guess one other option that we didn't really discuss, but somebody mentioned in the chat, I don't know who it was, but if you really liked the play on Vivid Voltage at 200, I mean, it was incorrect. It was a bad play. There could be some alternate reality where Pokemon never so much demand that they never got back to reprinting it, and it could have just continued up from there. But if you liked it at 200, you should love it at a 50% discount, right? I mean, that is another option if you've got a stable job, if these aren't in debt. I mean, you can like lower your average per box price. If you've only got 2 boxes at 200 a piece and you've got the money, you can buy 4 more cases of them and you can get your average box price down to $110 a box or something. And that would be a reasonable play too, to some extent, I think.
I think the other big lesson of this is how narratives change. Okay. So you have Evolutions, which had like, popular in the beginning with some people. Some of us hated it from the beginning, but whatever. But then it became, right, there was so much of it that it was like the least, it was that, Crimson Invasion maybe, and, Steam Siege or something would have been the 3 things you would have hated to see in any sort of product. And they kept putting them in every product because they weren't selling and they couldn't get rid of them, basically. So then all of a sudden, right, that narrative shifted so much and people changed their opinions on it so much. The same thing has happened to Vivid Voltage, just in a more minor way. Okay. And a lot of it has to do surrounding the amazing rares, but also it has to do with the alternative arts, which are much more popular now than like rainbow rares, for example. Whereas at the time, rainbow rares were still the thing and the chase. And so that rainbow rare Pikachu was like a huge deal, right? It was a much bigger deal. And then the full art and then the amazing rares. And it had sort of like a cosmic eclipse type feel in the sense that you could like pull something valuable or chase worthy from like almost every pack. And you could actually pull 2, fairly valuable fun cards, similar to sort of like a Hidden Fates, Shining Fates, Cosmic Eclipse. Some of these sets were like, you got a lot of hits every box. And so it was very enjoyable to open. That's part of why that set, did so well. But feelings change like very rapidly. Okay. Is the lesson. And so Pokemon is going to add new cool things that may make us look back at Evolving Skies and not think it's that great of a set. We might think a lot of these sets aren't great. They stink compared to these like serialized, whatevers, or even things that aren't serialized, but just like, cooler and cooler, more and more unique art, more and more interesting layered gold and whatever they're going to do. I don't know how much more that they can come up with to improve, but, they're going to attempt that. So it's just why it's so dangerous investing in things that are fairly new, because you're investing in the moment and you're investing in what people's feelings in the moment. And so often what you're looking for people to be overly negative or bearish on something. So it's like someone looks at something and arguably that was the argument again of pro Evolutions. It was like, well, people who've been in this hobby for a long time are really negative on it because they've seen it, they've opened it up, they can still get base set. They're all tired of base set. They don't want it anymore. But all these new people who are coming in haven't yet. And so because all these old people are so overly bearish, this is the most undervalued product right now, even though it's printed a lot, right? You can use that sort of rationality to try and apply it to different sets, to different boxes. So those are the opportunities you're wanting to look for. There are none right now, in my opinion, that are so obvious. Right now, I would just budget a certain amount each month that I want to put into something like this. And then I just would put a certain percentage of that into those cheap sealed boxes, a certain percentage into some of those cheap graded slabs are probably the 2 modern options I'd be looking at. All right. Um, I think with that stuff, it's like part of why I didn't get caught in that hype is my grounding and experience in other hobbies and other card games, and to understand how ludicrous and how expensive $250 is for a brand new something that's just been made, and how and when there's no serialized cards in it, when there's no hugely valuable item, and just understanding the moment. And I think that now, to Dan's point, like you're gonna have much better instincts going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I didn't get caught in it is because I was actively buying it from my distributor for the same. They did come up a little bit. Like at one point, my per box price was as low as like $78. And then I got different sales reps, and somehow I was getting like too good of a discount for a few years there. And I'm paying $86.50 a box now, though. $86.50 on most things. But yeah, I was still being offered new print waves of it. I looked at the calendar. I knew it was still within its 2-year window. I fully expected to get further allocations at 80 something a box. So every time I got them, I sold them at the 150, the 200. It didn't feel sustainable in any way. And then, I mean, I could have been wrong. I could have been wrong, and it could have, but I would have been really surprised. And I wouldn't have felt bad about being wrong in that way, because I think I made the right play given the information that I had and kind of the history that I've seen.
Yeah, it just everything was working against the market. Like everything was overhyping the market at that time. So I don't know. It just, from the combination of, stimulus checks to eventually leading to unemployment being up, to eventually leading to people being home and not spending, on other things, to people being depressed and anxious and needing to buy like more cards to self-soothe, to thousands and thousands of new stores opening up, gobbling up the product, which then needed to be resold to someone else, to, all of these breakers and secondhand channels that were buying up all the product online and kind of like inflating the price in a sense because they were getting a premium on selling the packs. Like there were just so many, when you analyze what was happening, there were so many factors that were temporarily increasing the price. That like all of that had to crash back down. Yeah. I mean, it was everything you could look at was a reason why it was inflated. There were no sort of like, it's going to keep going. Like the only thing the only keep going up signals is just like printing more money and people's just like never ending bullishness, but like, yeah, I mean, I am still stunned. So Evolution's getting to $400 did not stun me at all, given what happened. But I am stunned still to this day that Evolution's able to go to 400 to 1,000, because I saw 100,000 boxes probably sell it around at that. Which, when you think about the amount of money and brand new people willing to spend that kind of money, because that was part of what I was shocked at is. But this is the greed, and this is when people make money, they're so willing to spend more and more and more. And this is what happened: is you had people make some money or have some success, and then they just got more and more bullishness, and it just kind of built on each other. And people were, I mean, there are tons of people saying Evolution's going to go to 2,000, it's going to go to 4,000 once it hit 1,000. You'd be a fool not to buy it. This type of analysis and mentality.
Evolutions was crazy because when it was, I mean, I got like the last call from my distributor, and there was a lot of product left. I almost bought, I forget. I bought dozens of cases of it though. I bought more Evolutions in the final window than I had ever bought of any other set. And I almost bought like significantly more. 100 cases. Yeah. 100 cases is what I was contemplating buying. I called up my distributor. I had, oh yeah, we can do that. We've got that easy. Like, where do you want it when? Unfortunately, I didn't go into it that heavy, but I was wrong on Evolutions like you were, in that I only doubled to quadrupled my money because I bought it at my distributor before it went out. It went out, and I was happy to sell it at $200 a box. I sold cases at $1,200 a piece, and I sold cases a couple weeks later for $2,400 a piece, and I sold cases again for $3,500 a piece. It was crazy. Like every time it went up to that next level, I sold more, thinking there's no way it's going to continue. And I think I sold my last case. Well, it would have peaked at about $6,000 for a case. I think I sold my last one in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. And if I had just, I made a lot of money on it. I could have made a lot more than I did had I timed that perfectly. But you can't get hung up on stuff like that, because that,
it's just amazing, the bullishness.
yeah,
I mean, I'll forever, remember it, like that feeling. And people who just are brand new to something, not listening to all of the older people who didn't like, and just being like, no, and it's going to go up forever, and it's going to keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling. And it's just, yeah, it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Okay. I know I did probably enough on that. Move on to some more questions. Yeah.
the live chat is going back and forth on evolution. Some people like it, some people don't, but a little bit of interesting conversation there. No further
yeah,
questions, though.
And I'm a crazy person. Like I'm so like I'm so biased on that set. Like very obviously, I'm definitely not. I'm not with the average pulse of the hobby. With something like that, and I think that that cognitive dissonance, for some people who just really don't like the set and think it's poorly constructed, poorly made, and the cards are ugly, versus CP6, which I think is a very well-made set. Now, I think CP6 is way too expensive, but I actually think CP6 is actually beautiful, and the cards are really good looking and whatever. I think Evolution's the hollow patterns are decent. Okay, we're getting into the weeds again with Evolutions. I can talk about that forever, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a jerk about it. I will admit, and I think people who own it and people who like it, you should definitely disregard. Do what you think is best. Okay. Where are we here? Oh my gosh, we've got so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just lost like half the chat because it was so long ago. And now I've just lost half the questions. Okay, I'll start with the one that's at the top here. I apologize to those people. All right, Justin Cooper. Hey. Another question about getting a card signed. Arita will be at a con in March. I plan on getting an Electros signed for myself. What are some other good choices for Arita to sign?
As a collector, anything you want, whatever you want his signature on. I mean, he drew a lot of big cards, base set Charizard. If you've got one kicking around that you want, I personally am not a fan of signed cards. If I were to go to an event and there was like no line, I'd get Arita to sign a card of mine. But generally speaking, in my experiences, like it's hours long. I'd rather like be at the event doing event things than standing in a line. And I guess if you're in the line with other collectors and you're just chatting, that's fine too. But yeah, for me, I don't value them at all. I've owned a couple as part of larger collections, and I just sell them into the market at whatever they go for, because I just don't like them. I don't personally like if you get one signed and you have that experience meeting the artist. I get that from that perspective. Like when I was younger, I'd take a jersey to a game. I had a couple like sports people sign some memorabilia, and I have like a nostalgic tie to that thing. But like buying other people's, I'm not trying to like say it's stupid or anything like that. It's just not for me. So I get that it's there, and I kind of understand why people do it, but not fully. It's not for me, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I like signed cards myself. I enjoy them. But generally speaking, the Pokemon market has always valued them more than me. It's always been my experience. I remember Rita, like I would often see Rita signatures selling for like $100, $200, like the signature basically, because the card, and when I subtracted the card value, or I would see like a PSA 9 base set Charizard sell for the same price as like a PSA 6 base set Charizard with a Rita signature. And I'd rather have the PSA 9 base set Charizard, like the more, and I can get that card signed someday. You can't fix the card. and Arita signs a lot. So now there are obviously some very rare signatures, and there are signature collectors who, are very big fans of certain artists and that rarely sign, or, have a favorite card that a certain artist is very difficult to get to, and they want them to sign that. I think that's super cool. I totally get that. Yeah, but I'm yeah, generally speaking, the hobby has always been, the people interested in those have always been willing to pay more. Now, if a lot more things get signed, that may not always be the case. You might see those prices come down to where, if I could pick up like an Arita signature for like 20, $30, like that'd be cool. Like to get like some of my favorite Arita cards with like a 20, 30, $40 signature. That seems more reasonable. There are much more famous sports stars and people that you can get, for their signature cards that are like $5, $10, $15, so it's a lot. It's a lot for a signature of an artist for me.
Part of my distaste with the whole signed card thing too is like, I don't fully believe in the authenticated signature market. I don't have much faith in it. Like me personally,
for good reason. PSA has been a little strange with it.
My handwriting is abysmal. I could sign my name 100 times. Like it's a good thing I'll never be famous, because you would have a hell of a time getting any professional to try to authenticate what's real, because it's never the same. I don't fully believe that there are experts out there that can, with enough certainty, like really validate and authenticate signatures. And I've heard too many specific examples of, I had this card signed by Kobe Bryant when I was younger, like people who actually went in person, got a thing signed, and then it was like failed to authenticate. Like that would be endlessly frustrating. I've heard of it several times in Pokemon and out of Pokemon, and I just don't like it feels like wine tasting to me. I don't buy into the ability to properly authenticate it. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure some people would tell me that I am. And PSA clearly, I mean, they accept certain ones and they reject certain ones. But I've also heard of cards being rejected 2 times and then accepted the 3rd time. So I'm just not a fan of that whole authentication part of it.
All right, let's try to rapid fire-ish for us rapid fire through some questions. Okay, ready? Let's see how many we can get through. All right, have you guys any thoughts on cards? This is Curtis James. Have you guys any thoughts on cards like Rayquaza EX 97 out of 97, Absol 1 out of 97, Salamence 10 out of 97 from a set like 2003 EX Dragon? What are your thoughts on things like that? Do you think that they're, not on people's radars and that they're first appearances? Right? Do you feel they're undervalued?
Again, it's
rapid fire. Yeah.
I don't know enough about them. I don't know too much about what they're worth specifically. I do like the idea in a lot of ways of like the first appearance. And I do like the thought of that mid-era, more so like Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. There's so few graded. There's so few, like the demographics too. I think they're going to age into like a better time frame for the people who their main nostalgia lies in those sets. I think they're like coming into their full earning potential over the next decade. So I like the thought of cards like that in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, EX Dragon and a lot of these sets have, I think that they're definitely more expensive than like their Diamond and Pearl Hollow counterparts, as well as they should be. EX Dragon and some of those early EX sets are cool because they have the E series kind of border, and it's kind of this interesting time where they're kind of moving into the change in the look of the card. Beautiful art, I think, on some of these cards. First appearances of some cool Pokemon. They're great cards. It's they're really, there isn't anything in these eras that I look at that I'm like, oh my God, I have to pick up 100 of them. I will tell you that much. There's tons of great stuff. I'm always looking to buy stuff like that at generally a little bit under market or in some sort of like bulkish deal, or I'm looking for raw mint stuff that I can grade potentially. So that's usually where I'm going, or I'm looking to complete a set. Okay. But great eras. Love EX Dragon. Really great set. Thoughts on the Charizard Japanese e-card lottery promo?
I just talked about this one recently. There's 5,000 of them. I like the fact, well, that's the supposed distribution, right? Yeah. I like the idea of cards where we're pretty sure we know how many were created. High PSA 10 rate on those. Personally, for me, like that's a few $1,000 card, I think. I don't like it that much. So I don't own one anymore. I owned one years ago. I just flipped it into the market because the market valued it more than I do.
I like it. I'm going to say correctly valued. That's how we should answer these. We're going to go correctly valued, undervalued, overvalued. People can let us know. Do you like the shorter answers where we get through things, or you like us just to ramble on and on and on?
30 minutes per question.
Yeah, for real. All right. Gary Oak says, do you guys think Celebrations has a chance of becoming the next legendary collection in the future? So I would compare Celebrations more to Generations, like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I would say no. My short answer, longer answer. They printed a ton of it. I love it though. I'm gonna try to sit on a lot of Generations packs just because I can see myself. Sorry, Celebrations. They're just fun to open because everything's shiny. They're all shiny, and it's just a good experience, I think. Not necessarily, so like more from the collector side. I am sitting on more of the product as a business just because how much I like it as a collector. I think that'll kind of resonate with other people, and people just, that's a fun, easy one to open. You can chase the base original Charizard, the reprint of it, and every card is shiny. And who doesn't like shiny?
Yeah, I don't like Generations at all. I've actually never really talked about it too much on the channel. But I think Generations is very overvalued. I like Celebrations a lot better as like a opening experience and product, like much better than Generations. I don't think the Radiant collection was very good in English. I think it was much better in like the Pokekine and like Japanese. And I just didn't really get that set. And that set was really not popular also, for people to know. Like that sat at like $2 like a pack for a long time. And those mythical collections, like those were a dime a dozen, $10 each for a long time. We had some influencers start to talk about it. We started making the comparison that it was like the Generations. It was an important historical set, like these types of things. I saw prices go up a lot on that. Prices on those actually went up more than Evolution. I mean, we talk a lot about Evolutions as being like the big winner, but there were other sets and packs and things that did extremely well too. Shining Legends, another one, did really, really well. Shining Legends, super popular when I first came out. People loved it. I think people just always loved it. Like it's just, people really like that. There's a little bit of boredom because you do get tired of pulling those like, shining cards, and people would end up having like a binder full, but they're really good looking cards. I think people always really liked them.
I liked Shining Legends a lot, and that Mewtwo card.
It was around a lot. Like you like those existed real cheap in Walmart. Like those ETBs were around forever. So there was a lot printed of that too. It just got ate up over time. Will Celebrations have a lot more printed than a set like Shining Legends? I would imagine so. I would definitely imagine so, but it's hard to know that. We'll sort of see. Clearly I have a number of ETBs of Celebrations. I bought a few more the other day, in part because I like to open them and I enjoy it. And I've only opened one ETB so far, 2 ETBs. I opened one with Rafi, but I've only opened 2 ETBs so far. So, I'm excited to open some more, and I love that Umbreon card, and there's a lot of cards that will be fun to pull, and I also like the gold star, the Greninja gold star that comes in every box. So just fun.
Yeah, and it's cool how they just like pull the card from each year just to really get a whole sample of the different flavors of cards throughout the 25-year history.
Yeah. HEW says, question, where do you guys draw the line on a card being too niche? Is it best to focus your investment solely on Charizard Pikachu cards?
It all depends on the price. I mean, I don't think anything is too niche for me. If it's something I enjoy, I'll buy it. If it's something I enjoy and it seems like a good price for what it is, I'll buy it. So too niche isn't a thing. From a business side, I think I'd give the same answer. Because as long as it's priced right for what it is, I guess trying to keep it rapid fire.
It's all about price point. There are no rules. Like, everyone always tries to ask questions about rules. Like, should I buy this? Should I buy that? It's all price point, and we try to give you like, where do we think that price point is? Do we think it's too high? Do we think it's too low? Like a little bit, but Dan and I buy everything pretty, I mean, there are probably some areas where we might be like, this is probably a good moneymaker, but we're going to pass because we don't like it. I mean, I'm sure we could come up with some examples of that, but generally speaking, we sort of buy everything. And I buy everything in freaking non-sports TCGs, and I'm starting to buy sports too. So
there's a price where Jake would buy evolutions even.
Oh yeah, for sure. It would have to be real low though.
Yeah.
I would buy evolutions at probably $72 a box, but not if I could buy Chilling. Like, I'd rather buy Chilling Reign at $72 a box. And that is 100% serious. Like, it just is what it is. Like, I'm not joking with that with anyone. Like, I wouldn't open it because I like don't want to open it. Yeah. So whereas I'm like excited to open Chilling Reign. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts on the Rayquaza SL10 Call of Legends? Looks really nice in my opinion. Yeah, that whole set, super cool for a long time, super undervalued, super niche. Now very, very expensive. People know about it. I remember like who did I like? Yeah, some influencers, some people talking about it, not hyping it up necessarily, but just kind of talking about it, showing it. Great card, great set. I'm going to say overpriced though, compared to what else I could buy. Like, that would not be what I'd buy, but it's a great card.
I agree on all counts. I would say
they're just very expensive. I think when you're talking about that, I think that's in the realm of like a Plasma Charizard probably. And I would definitely rather own the Plasma. Like, I prefer the or even the Plasma Blastoise, or like even like all those Plasma sets had those like gold bordered secret rares. I actually prefer those to the SL cards. But so the SL cards are all like very, legendary, very, very popular, top of the line Pokemon pretty much, which is part of why it's a valuable set, including the Lugia. So the Lugia and the Rayquaza are definitely the two big hitters there. I like the Deoxys too, though. Let's see. Basic Trainer says he is 10,000% positive the sun will rise tomorrow. Don't be that positive, man. The laws of physics. You can't trust those laws of physics. People talking about pumping and dumping over the blockchain, distributing it away from Pokemon into the NFT world. All right. I'm sure these discussions that I'm reading now happened like 2 hours ago. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try to go quick here. Let's see. Okay, where I'm at is still in the Logan Paul discussion.
You can see the time next to it, right?
No, I can't see the time, but I'm seeing like people commenting on the things we said in the Logan Paul discussion. So not great. Okay, Lord Voldemort said, "Oh, they're still talking about Logan Paul." I think I'm going to try to not get us back into that.
Yeah.
Okay, more Logan Paul. Yeah, Lord Voldemort saying, "Can you sue Rattle for him making a personal opinion video?" Yeah, that's always how people try to get out of it. Is they say it's our opinion. It's the same thing with financial advising. We're sharing opinions. We're not stating facts. It's a gray area. You know, the defamation can be fairly gray. Mr. Bogey Dragon says, "What's your best guess at how many first edition base set boxes were made?"
How many were made?
Yeah. Come on, throw out a number.
I need to pull my print run sheet back up.
Yeah, plug that Patreon. In our Patreon, we go through all of these things.
I think I put base set as like 5 billion cards total, all languages, all variants, everything.
Yeah.
So if there's this theory out there, there's this discussion out there that 10% of the intended print run was going to be first to 90% unlimited, but I think they printed way more unlimited print runs with base set specifically than they thought they were going to have to due to the obscene demand. If I had to completely just wildly speculate, I would think the first edition print run for base is closer to like 1% than 10%, which would put it at, if we move the decimal 2 to the left, it's too late. My brain's not working well. How many boxes? Let me quickly do how many boxes that would be.
Yeah.
145,000 boxes. Does that sound right? Yeah, 145,000 boxes. That's my guess.
I was literally going to say 147,000. I wish I had said that. That would have been hilariously close. I swear that was what came into my head. That's really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that number feels reasonable enough to me. 100,000 ish. I mean, with a massive, could be 90% lower, could be 20 times higher.
FlexGod says, when do y'all think pop reports will be firmly fleshed out, especially after considering the last year's surge and considering lower pop sets, i.e. EX era and e-reader sets?
They printed so much of this stuff. I think if PSA genuinely goes to where they're printing 20 million encapsulating 20 million cards a year and say 1 million of that per year is Pokemon, I think we could have fleshed out pop reports within 5 years or something. Fleshed out being, I don't know exactly what that means. I think certain sets like Jungle and Fossil First Edition, I think there's so much more sealed product that even 5 years from now, there's going to be so much more sealed product that the pop reports are just going to hit some steady state, like they grow by X amount per year into, I mean, the rest of my life, not into infinity, but
I remember I had people coming on my challenge yelling at me in the comment section, telling me that there are none left. There are no boxes left. There are no cards coming back. These types of things. The good old days during the hype.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I so I watched the pop reports pretty carefully. There's quite a bit of everything coming back. I'm even starting to see some of like the Diamond and Pearl era is getting a little more filled out. Some of the original Nintendo EX era. There's definitely the least of the Diamond and Pearl era right now, and into Black and White, in part because there just aren't as many high value cards as some of these. So there's just a lot to consider. The first sets and the first things that will be fleshed out, will be first edition base for sure, just because of the value of all the commons and uncommons, and it'll be interesting to see where that gets to. I really don't have anything too insightful or smart to add on like when I think it's all going to happen. It's there's so many of these cards printed, and there's so many people who like aren't going to grade also, or who are going to you're going to see it's like someone is going to like be a huge collector of just having these cards and not wanting to grade them, and then they're going to pass away, or they're going to sell it finally, or they're going to give it to someone else, and they're going to grade a bunch of cards. So there's always going to be these types of events. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at a specific set, like if you look at Jungle, Fossil, first edition hollows, cards in that range, what are the total graded of like a random, like a Snorlax first edition hollow?
Snorlax first edition hollow total graded?
Like a couple thousand, not even?
Not even, probably. I'm going to say like total graded. Yeah, 1,500 maybe.
I'm just pulling it up quick.
Maybe a little less, maybe
right around 15.
13 to 1,500, somewhere in there.
Looking at the numbers on Pokemon Price, in that vicinity, 13 to 1,500. There was likely over like 100,000 of that card printed. I mean, there were likely less than 2% of the total cards created have been graded. And I think with like modern, ultra modern specifically, I think we're getting up into the realms where maybe north of 10% of some of the cards printed might be graded. So like, what does fleshed out mean exactly? There's never going to be a future where every card is graded that was ever printed, or 50%, nowhere near things like that. Is it fully fleshed out when 5% of them are graded? What exactly does fleshed out mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
I think that's a smart way to look at it is, what is, and to go back to your point before, and I know we're rapid firing, so we should move on, but to go back to your point before, I think looking at it as really, at what point is it going to be slow enough that it really it doesn't affect the market? I think it's probably what you're really getting at Flex Gods, and what's really most crucial in terms of actually like actionable data or actionable time. It's when is the trickle going to be slow enough that it's going to be easily absorbed, and sort of the population that's already out there is really the population that's going to be available to collectors, for the most part. Okay. And we don't know is the truth. So long-winded way, we could have just said, we don't know. Great question. We're not sure. Australian Blaster says, thank you for answering my question. Another niche question. Do you own or enjoy the Burn Tower Reviving Legends prize? Yes. Love it. How about you?
I love it as well. It's worth quite a bit of money though, for being like a shared art with an English set card and a Japanese set card. But Pokemon Crystal, favorite game, the 3 legendary beasts, the Burn Tower brings me right back. Love it.
Agreed. I agree with all of that. Do you think it would, Wansi Fetish says, do you think it would be helpful if more people would use the PSA registry when you share your progress of cards of a set What stops people from using it? Gem Mint Pokemon uses it.
Do I think it would be helpful? I guess I don't fully understand the question.
Do you think it would be helpful if more people use the PSA registry when you share your progress of cards of a set? What stops people to use it? Do we think it'd be more helpful? Like in terms of, I mean, the only thing I can think of is like, we can see like how many completed sets there are, which could be interesting to see, or near complete, to get a sense of like, are these being collected as complete sets, or is it more kind of one individual card being collected separately? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it would be more data. Like if everyone was forced to use it somehow, if everyone's collection was just put out in public view and you could see, okay, well, this card's pop 20, 18 of them are locked away in registry sets, that would make it feel like it's less likely that they're going to break up the registry set. You could get kind of more insight. Hey, it's a pop 20. This many are tied up into complete sets. Of the collections missing one card, 90% of them are missing like this card. So you could gain like deeper, further insights.
And also kind of know the value of your cards a little bit better, in the sense that you have one of the cards that a lot of people maybe need to complete it. You could see something like that, like the top 3 or 4 completed sets all are missing your one card that you have as a PSA 10 or something like that. Maybe you could reach out to them even, or connect that. Like there could be something there. I don't know. Once they make that an NFT, people will be using it. Once it's saved on the blockchain, then you'll see people using it.
I don't use it personally, but actually what made me, I've seen a couple of people mention like MetaZoo NFTs in the chat. One intriguing thing about the MetaZoo NFTs is that you can see, like, my name is on my wallet. Everyone can see every NFT I've bought. They know that I have a complete set of the 10 tokens. If and when I sell one and someone's watching my wallet, they'll know. Like, I can't lie about having a complete set or not. There's people in a Discord I'm in. They're tracking how many complete sets there are, how many are missing, this one, that one, that one. It's actually really, so it like directly is an analog to the conversation we just had. It's really, really cool.
Makes sense.
In a lot of ways. Yeah.
Pokebest says that, so this goes back to a question we were having a long time ago. I think some of the cross-hatch stuff, maybe. I was a player and they basically just handed them out. The reason why people have so many is because stores had very few players during the DP era. So people just handed them out to the people who were there, and there weren't very many players. So they just got a bunch of them. Thank you. Interesting. So that's why people had a lot of them, but it says that there aren't that many of them also. Wait, I think we're talking about we might be talking about something else here. Oh boy. I think it's the crosshatch discussion we were having towards the beginning. Okay. Take a deep breath. Oh boy, I'm getting tired. And we're like, not even like probably a third of the way through. I love it. I love the questions, guys. It's great.
Over 100 people with us too.
Yeah, it's great. Will PSA open for grading in Europe in 2022? I have no insight into that. Any insight, but Dan?
Nope.
Sorry. I haven't heard anything about that. Okay. I think I have 20 more minutes of energy. Okay. Does that sound good, Dan?
Sounds good.
Okay.
It's funny when I'm watching back live videos that I wasn't there for. A lot of times you'll say like 20 more minutes, and then I look and there's like 50 minutes of video left. We'll see how we do though.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh God, no, I'm so tired. Yeah, I drove like 8 hours today.
Oof, that does take a lot out of you.
Yeah, it did. It's like really starting to hit me right now. I'm like trying to read these questions. My eyes are like,
yeah, whenever you want to call it, just
push through. I haven't made content in like 10 days. I feel like I've got to do it now. It's fun. I enjoy it. All right. Darth Grader says, what with a productive asset, the value is more tangible. How do you see the appreciating value of a collectible occurring? Does it require more eyes, older? Can it go forever? Yeah. So, I mean, it requires more interest, which comes in the form of dollars. So you can have the same group of people interested if they all have more money and want to put more money into it. It will appreciate. Yeah, I mean something that obviously doesn't have some sort of like a necessary sustaining life function. I mean the function is for you to collect it, amass it, store it, look at it. There's a lot of things that we do with it, that is sort of the point of it. Show it off, have conversations about it with other people. All those types of things are the reason why it's enjoyable. So there are a lot of things, but none of those things are at the importance of food or water or your shelter, these types of things. So when you have something like that, of course it becomes from a sort of investment using investment language, it doesn't have as much of a competitive advantage as compared to food. Food has the competitive advantage over cards for human beings, unless we're extremely addicted. Then we may pass on meals to buy cards or these types of things. But generally speaking, so it's dependent on demographics. And when we talk about like Pokemon demographics, they're good demographics. We're young. There could be more generations entering the hobby over time. So just a lot more people, and the current generation can have more money over time. As we get older, we can have more expendable income into our careers. That may shift as we buy houses and have kids or more kids or kids go to college and we have more expenses. You may see periods where that, but generally speaking, the demographics are really positive for Pokemon versus a dying pop culture collectible where you're going to see the only people who are really interested in it maybe are in their 60s or sort of, getting into retirement age and or older. Those tend to be the collectibles or the hobbies that tend to die out. And when a hobby dies out, that you tend to see prices go down, particularly on sort of the middle to lower end. Sometimes you actually see the high end remain very expensive because there are a few sort of diehards who have the money. But that's generally what you're going to see in something that is not food, that is just going to be always important to every human ever, unless we replace our need for that.
Yeah, I forget the wording of the exact wording of the question, but
with a productive asset, the value is more tangible. How do you see the appreciating value of a collectible occurring?
Yeah, I think it's needed. Either more people need to come in or the same people with more money, like Jake touched on. There's really no, like with a productive asset like a stock, if I know there's like you can calculate the value given like the balance sheet of the business, the cash flows, the actual capital they have on hand, and the value of the properties that they own. And none of that really goes for Pokemon. You're kind of just dependent on someone paying more for it down the line. And Jake touched on a little bit too. One interesting thing, people who followed my eBay for years know that I used to be involved in Steins. I still keep an eye on that market a little bit. It's a collectible that's like close to me geographically speaking. That's a dying hobby right now. So kind of participating in the death of a hobby, the literal death of the prices, and seeing what those price moves do. And it's a really interesting experience to just see it happen. And demographically, I'm way younger than most people doing that. I mean, most people into that hobby are 60 to 80 years old, and there's just not enough 0 to 59-year-olds replacing them as they move on. So yeah, I don't think Pokemon is at risk of anything like that anytime soon, but it is kind of just an interesting thing to see.
And I guess another way to take this question is to think about how do the fundamentals of the items change over time, or can they become more valuable? So age is one, like items get older. When something gets older, it can have more fundamental appeal. There's also natural rarity or attrition that happens where items get lost or damaged or destroyed or disappear. They can become more rare, less of them left, particularly in various conditions that you might be looking for. Also, things can happen that can change the fundamentals. So both in positive and negative ways. And things can happen, and we're not talking necessarily like extrinsic things, but like intrinsic, well, sort of intrinsic. I mean, it's a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic, but like, for example, like, the Pokemon company can start really selling a character or really selling something, that you have a lot of that Pokemon, or really pushing that in a video game, or something becomes a really important character or recurring thing, or, what have you. That wasn't really that great of an example. I'm getting tired. And that was really extrinsic, not intrinsic, but whatever. Nailing it. Oh boy, 13 minutes left. Okay, let's do this. Now we're gonna get to like really good answers, the best answers of the whole night for those 120 left.
Deprived, Jake.
Yeah. Oh my God. Are Battle Styles and Vivid Voltage the best products to buy for 2 times gains in 2 to 3 years? I would say definitely not for me.
No.
Definitely not Vivid Voltage. Battle Styles would have a better chance, but I buy Chilling Reign over Battle Styles. To me, the best chance are the like low graded, like $8, $9 CGC cards I'm buying now that frankly already I could probably sell for double. So just buying stuff in low auctions. But I guess if we're talking market value, let's put across like the good deals or whatever, buying stuff at lower, getting in an auction, buying something at like real market value. What would you buy now to double your money in? What was the time frame?
2 years.
If you had to choose something, 2 to 3 years, you have to double your money. 2 to 3 years, what do you buy?
I don't think there's anything I'm that confident about being able to double your money. Doubling your money in 2 years is massive. That is a massive return.
You're forced to choose, and everyone's going to go out and buy this. What are you going to choose to hype? How about those Champions Path Charizards you've got stacked in the back?
No. That's tough. I guess I'd take a look. I don't like Battle Styles more than Vivid Voltage just because it's newer and I think it's going to be in print longer. I like
Battle Styles better at the price because again I'm counting it at like that $71 that I bought it at, but I guess it's really like market would really be more what 82.
Yeah, 84, probably.
Versus 100 for Vivid. I don't know. They're neither of them aren't going to do that probably. So
I would say it wouldn't be in the Pokemon space if I was looking to double my money in 2 years.
Okay. You got to double your money in Pokemon. Give it to them. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Not.
I can't come up with anything except for, like you said, buying at 50% of market. You can do every day. Every day, there's probably $100,000 worth of Pokemon items ending at 50% of recent market.
Sure. Sounds reasonable. Yeah, I think. What do I think? I think probably your best chances are gonna be stuff like Hidden Fates singles. Like some Hidden Fates singles, maybe like really cheap ones that have gotten really hit. Like I'm buying some lower than they were when Hidden Fates first came out. We're talking about cards going from like $5 to $10, things like that. That would be the best way you're probably doubling your money rather than buying a card that's like 500 and hoping it goes to 1,000. I do think that that's going to be tough, probably.
Yeah.
And anything else is going to be tough. So that would be your best bet. And I'm not telling anyone to go do that. I just think if you're really hoping for that or looking for that, something that is very likely out of print, that's kind of been hit the hardest right now, that it's all probably out on the market and it's just going to be less and less over time. And it's going to stand the test of time and really stand out and be very popular. That's why I would pick something like that.
Like Evolution's booster boxes, right? Out of print.
for sure.
They got hit
Out
pretty
of print,
hard.
just strong set, real popular.
They ticked a lot of those boxes, or the boxes that you were mentioning there.
Well, what you could choose, right? Certainly the boxes, I can't imagine, but it is possible some of the singles that have been really hit because the singles have been crushed. It is possible that some of those double, particularly like the flying Pikachu and things like that, because those are really hard to pull. Jokes. You were selling that card for like $100, weren't you, at one point?
It's still selling for anywhere between like 60 and 100. It fluctuates a lot.
In PSA 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's guys, everyone out there, please, like, I guess if you're a collector and you just want these things, but like PSA's been charging $150 to grade cards. That's why there are tens of thousands of those waiting. I would say 50,000 of those waiting in the world to be sent out if that price remained. You'd see over the next like 5 to 10 years, 50,000 of those get 10s potentially. And yeah, so if somehow the price remained and PSA's grading fee came down, it's just.
But Jake, there's 7 billion people in the world, and everyone loves Pikachu.
There's 7 billion, yeah. The classic stonker argument. Well, all we need to do is get like 1% of like every person in the world, and then Pokemon will go to like that card will be worth like $1 million. It's like, yeah, okay.
There's 21 million millionaires in the US. If everyone makes Evolutions booster boxes like 1% of their portfolio, the price would go to $1 billion.
Sounds kind of similar to the crypto argument that I hear all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, crypto goes up if everyone buys into it and believes in it. So all we have to do is everyone just has to buy put 1% in this, and then we're all going to make a ton of money.
It's funny too, because like 21 million Bitcoin is all that will ever exist, and there's roughly that many millionaires in the US. It's
there you go. Kismet.
Coincidence.
Okay. Have we talked about there's a Poke Beach article. Have you read the Poke Beach article on Logan Paul, the case? I haven't.
It appears that it just it takes Rattle's 45-minute video and converts it into an article, essentially.
Okay. Justin Pan says, hey guys, what were your thoughts on the Japanese Game Boy promos? I love them. I want them all, but I don't know if these eBay prices are overinflated or if they look about right to you. Thanks so much.
I just bought them.
These are cards that a lot exist. They're well known and they're popular. And so I would say that they're pretty expensive, but they're great looking cards and they're cool cards. And, I don't know if they're going to get too much cheaper. That's my honest opinion on them.
I bought these recently because, like I said, there's over $100,000 worth of discounted Pokemon selling every day. This just happened to be discounted Pokemon selling one day last week, so I bought them. I really like the arts, but I don't generally value 10s as much as the market does, so I bought these purely for a flip. I think I do have like binder copies of these somewhere, so I like them, but the 10s feel expensive to me because they always do.
Yeah. Pokeslam says, Jake, do you display Pokemon cards? You're one of the few PokeTubers who don't have them in the backdrop. Laugh out loud. Yeah. So I am moving probably at the end of this month, and I am planning for the first time to probably put together a Pokemon background. It's potentially going to happen. We'll see. Maybe not, but
excited
I think
for that.
The reason I haven't is because I don't know, laziness. No, it's because I've moved a couple of times in the last year and a half or so. And I just haven't wanted to like buy the stuff necessary to display it all and hang it all up and put it all in a nice place. Cause every time I moved, I knew we were going to move again, probably. So we've just sort of been in that situation. And I kind of always liked the idea of building this channel with people who really interested in the information and had sort of the honestly the focus and the concentration and the interest not to click on just like clickbaity thumbnail-y videos, and to like wouldn't go away immediately when they didn't like see eye candy or something to look at. I mean, I like eye candy too and something to look at. So there's nothing wrong with having both. Yeah, look at those champions. Those are, dude, I've never seen that card before. Is that rare?
These are the only 11 in the pop, as far as I understand.
Wow. That's a really rare Charizard, like one of the rarest, and he has all of them. Yeah. So, but I do display, like in my room here, I have cards up that I look at. I have a number of I have like a display case and some other things. In old videos, when I was at the last place that I was at, I did have a bit of a background going, and I had some booster boxes and a display case with some PSA cards. It's probably almost a year ago now, in my backgrounds. But since I've been here, all you get is this little, just some of my binders. I'm actually surrounded by cards, though, and this room isn't just a mess filled with cards. That's why I'm like, whenever I talk about things, I like reach for a pile to show an example. Yeah. All right. Christian Diaz says, have you guys discussed the post for PSA stating they want to clear all the backlog in the next 3 months?
I haven't seen that, and I don't think that's mathematically possible at the current rate they're going.
Christian said it's their number one resolution for the year.
As far as I was aware, I think they intend to have the backlog satisfied by in 2022. Oh, 3 months. 3 months rang a bell. I think all these new cards they're taking in at 50 and at 100, I think they've pledged to not have any of them take longer than 3 months. So maybe there's I
think I heard something that they were talking about between maybe second and third quarter, they wanted to have everything back. I feel like I heard something, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And that's more realistic.
The last few days, because I've been on vacation. So
I think the 90 days, the 3 month thing is, I think all the cards that are coming in on the $50 or $100 services are going to be 3 months or less. And I think it's more like sometime during 2022, potentially, like you said, second, third quarter, they'll get caught up through March and have more tiers opened.
All right. We're taking one more question at the bottom. Whoever asked the first question. Sorry for the 1,000 questions in the middle. I apologize. We're going to take one relevant question at the end. And then we're going to end. Okay, we got a question. Would you guys trade, GDF gets the last question of the night. Would you guys trade a first edition Shining Charizard PSA 10 for a sealed base set booster box?
I think there's a pretty decent value discrepancy there, isn't there, or no?
I want to say that the first edition Shining Charizard, I was seeing it sell for around 14 to 16,000.
And I think boxes are a little bit under that, aren't they? Or
gosh, I'd have to look up the latest. Let's say they're the same.
I honestly, again, the 10 is, I have a 9 of the card. I feel like I can do more with the box, or there's not much to do with that box though. You can't really open it. You could, I mean, if you've got the means, you could break it for a premium.
Rainy day, sneaking in with the Celtics hate at the last second.
Whichever one I took, I'd just sell. I'm not a big fan of either. I don't want either. If I had to keep one, I'm probably the card.
As a collector of the card.
As long as
a collector of the card. Yeah.
If it's a real 10.
Yeah, for me, it's just not, it would not be that enjoyable for me to open up base set unlimited box, because it just, honestly, it would kind of just be stressful. I'd rather just have the card.
I've opened a lot of base set
Yeah.
unlimited, and I think it'll always be around to be opened more, and it'll always be around to be bought. So yeah, I'd take the card.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Rainy Day asked a really stupid question, so we'll skip that. Everyone leave a mean comment below about Rainy Day. No, I'm just joking. All right, guys. We're going to end it there. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate the time you took with us tonight and listening to us ramble on in the middle there, or me, I guess, about evolutions.
A lot of fun as always.
Yeah, it's a pleasure getting together with you. Great to have a nice turnout tonight, and be able to chat and hang out with you all. If you can, please subscribe to both of our channels. Support us on Patreon. Click the link in the description if you're buying something on eBay. All of that goes a long way to helping us just kind of continue to do this in a sustainable way. And that's our plan going forward. Patreon news or anything like that, I think we're going to probably try to do. We have to talk about PWCC and what we want to do with that, because normally on our Patreon we do we get together. We actually just got together tonight for a chat on Patreon, which was fun to talk about modern a little bit. But normally we get together on the Discord, and have just like a hangout and conversation on the PWCC night. But now that PWCC is going to be 4 times a month, we have to see. I'd love to make that commitment, but we'll have to talk about it because it might not always work for our schedules and stuff like that. It's quite a lot. So,
and it's always Sunday night too now, right? I think.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to, maybe figure out maybe doing 2 of them or something. I mean, we'll talk about it, but
Yeah.
and also we obviously encourage everyone in the Discord to hang out and do it for everyone. People are always, but for us to try to make it there. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, and happy New Year to everyone, and more content to come. Any notes or anything you want to say, Dan?
No, I think you covered everything. This is always just talking Pokemon, engaging with other collectors and people with similar interests is always one of the most fulfilling and rewarding parts of the hobby. So unfortunately, we're still in that kind of environment where travel's a bit tougher and all that. So it's fun to just be able to hop into a live and chat. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I missed it over the last 10 days. I really did, which was nice. It's nice to still feel that way after a year and a half of doing it. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Till next time. Take care, guys.